Exciting times are once again upon us, my friends, just in time to finish up your October Halloween reading, and also just in time to get a head start on that holiday gift buying season. I'm pleased and proud to announce my company's latest publication, and here it is, Where the Pretty Things Rot by Henry Snider. Yes, indeed, we're here to talk about another book published by my company, Polymath Press. This one is indeed hot off the presses and is just now freshly available. As I mentioned before, it is called Where the Pretty Things Rot by Henry Snider. I've known the author for many years now. So many years, I won't even say how many because it makes me feel old. He was, in fact, even the founder of Fiction Foundry, the writers group I'm currently running, and which also put out my past anthology called In the Woods, I guess about 2 years ago now. So I was really excited to bring this new book into print. This one, though, is a collection of 16 amazing horror stories, and if you're one of the people watching this channel, I can almost guarantee you're gonna love this one. Right from the start, I'll just let you know it's available now from all your favorite bookstores, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your local indie bookstore, wherever you like to get your books. I have some links down there in the What's It to some good sources that also will help to support my channel if you use my purchase links. But I also do have autographed copies available, as I pretty much always do for my publications. So be sure to check those out directly from my company's website. But for today, what I'd like to do is just to introduce the book to you a little bit and to sort of go through the table of contents and tell you not much, certainly no spoilers, but just a little bit about each of the stories in this book. On that note, one of the things I like about this one, as a matter of fact, is that each story is accompanied by an author's note describing the origin of where each tale came from, or an anecdote about the story, or something along those lines. But instead of just reading those to you, because you can read them yourself right there in the book, I just want to tell you a few words about each of the stories, just to sort of give you a flavor of what's in the book, because it actually does have quite a range, from the sort of quiet and creepy to the more overtly horrific. Personally, I love it all, but I also think that means there's something in here for just about everyone. Now, going through the table of contents, the first tale in the book is a story called The Clown. I don't want to say it's my favorite, because I'm not picking favorites, but we could call it maybe a favorite among favorites or something like that, because it really seems like it was almost written for somebody like me. Because y'all know I have some magic background. I've done magic tricks for many years, and the worlds of magicians and clowns are pretty closely related and intertwined. This one takes place at a circus and follows a young girl who's chasing this mysterious, diminutive clown through the carnival grounds. It's one of those where you can tell something's not right about the situation right from the start, but you won't really get the full horror of it until the end, and I love that kind of a thing. And I also like all the references to carnival and circus and clowns and things, because it sort of connects with a world with which I'm somewhat familiar. The author wrote it, apparently, specifically because his wife is terrified of clowns. And so, though I won't spoil anything, I will also say the author's note on the story also includes a great anecdote that brought just a sliver of joy to my twisted little heart. Next, then, is a story called Sandcastles, in which a couple are traveling along a freeway. They get caught in a sandstorm and end up discovering an ancient evil. And then, Someone to Watch Over Me is a period piece about a girl going on a date with a soldier back from World War I. But of course it's a horror story, and so the date goes horribly wrong in ways I don't think you're likely to guess. That brings us to taste. Once again, I don't want to say too much or to spoil the ending, and to really explain what the story is really about would be to spoil the ending, but let's just say this one starts off with a boyfriend searching for his girlfriend. She's had some substance abuse issues, she's relapsed, and she's disappeared. And so, in addition to the horror elements that I'm going to have to keep under my hat for now to avoid spoilers, it's also quite an interesting commentary on things like addiction and relationships. Our next tale is Singed, in which some firemen are searching a building to rescue people during the horrific events of what the locals call Devil's Night. Of course, they find horrors in the apartment building worthy of that evening's title. This is one of the more extreme stories in the collection as far as I'm concerned. Let's just say my editorial notes while we were preparing this story for print were interesting. Room Service is the next story, and it's kind of an odd one, but in a good way. It's a reprint that was originally published in an anthology of stories that took place on a plague ship, or I should say a ship full of wealthy people who have boarded this ship and set to sea to avoid a plague. Within that setting, our main character in this story is a stowaway whose own criminal shenanigans lead into the kind of plot only a horror story can deliver. And then we have one called Lunar Descent. It's another of those that I might call a sort of a favorite among favorites for myself, because it just has a straight line to whatever is broken in my mind that makes me the way that I am. Anyway, this is our resident science fiction horror story, or I guess one of two. It takes place aboard a spacecraft near Saturn, near the planet Saturn, where a disaster has occurred, and our main characters have to investigate to see what's really happened, and of course they discover the horror along the way. And then next up is Songbird, a delightfully nasty little tale about a woman who wakes up to find herself locked in a cage lying atop a filthy mattress. This is one for those readers who really like the gritty serial killer kinds of tales. It's one of the shorter ones in the book, but I think it still packs quite a punch. And then there's Fellowship. It's named after a fictional town called Fellowship, where a couple get stranded after some car trouble. But when they wander into the local diner, they realize quickly that what initially looked like just a fairly run-of-the-mill, very religious small-town community is actually completely dominated by what can only be described as a kind of a cult, and a particularly dangerous one. That brings us to a tale called 1865, which is set in, you guessed it, the year 1865. It follows a group of Union soldiers who stop at a Virginia plantation when one of their men makes the wrong kind of a trouble with the residents. But they quickly discover there are worse horrors than a rogue soldier. Indeed, they're about to meet horrors arguably even more terrifying than the war itself. Next is The Vessel, our resident horror erotica story. The trick with that sort of thing, as the author himself points out in his note, is that horror erotica really only works, or at least only works well, with roughly equal parts of both genres represented. And that's hard to do, but I think that's exactly what we get here. It's one of those I think it's best not to even hint too much about in terms of plot or story, lest I say too much and spoil something. It is a short story after all. But I will say that I think it will appeal strongly to fans of Clive Barker's work. Next is Trophies. In this one, a couple of police officers are searching a potential crime scene for clues. The setting itself is creepy, but I think the real heart of the story is just the interaction between these characters. It's driven a lot by just these two characters' conversation. And it also includes spiders, which seems like fair play to me in the sense that the author's wife is afraid of clowns, and so he wrote The Clown, our first story. But the author himself is afraid of spiders, so apparently he managed to give himself the heebie-jeebies with this one. In A Murder of Crows, the next story, our main characters take shelter from a nasty storm along with a bunch of crows. But our avian friends may turn out to be a bit more than meets the eye. That story also serves as a sort of prequel to the author's forthcoming novel, Drive-In Feature. On that topic, I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit and do part of this out of order, because the very last thing in the book is in fact a sneak preview of that very forthcoming novel, consisting of the first 3 chapters. Obviously, that part is just a teaser, but I think it's going to get a lot of you interested in the next book, that novel, as well. Returning back to the short stories, though, the next one, back in our normal sequence, is called The Lost. It starts off with probably the most horrifying of all nightmares for any parent, a missing child. But as people go searching, they start to notice everything about their town just seems somehow wrong and increasingly dangerous as they move along. So it's a really interesting, really creepy kind of a story. Then we have Sketches, in which a recently wheelchair-bound woman, grieving the death of her husband in the same accident that put her in the wheelchair, comes into contact with a mysterious kind of magic. This is one of the quieter and more emotional tales, and I think it does a great job of showing off the author's range, because we have something like this that's really quiet and creepy and emotional, and then we've got something like Singed, which I'd get kicked off of YouTube if I told you some of the things that are in the story. Really good range, and like I said, something for everyone in this book. And then finally, we close out with Skewed Perceptions, our other kind of science fiction horror story. This one's a much more near future, though, and it takes place not on a spacecraft, but at a research facility where, as you might guess, the research is about to take a really wrong turn. And well, that's it. That's a quick overview of what I think a lot of you will consider one of the best collections of short stories in years. Yes, I'm admittedly biased. I do have an interest in this book's success, but as I always say, if I didn't genuinely believe in it, I never would have put my logo there on the back cover. So I really do encourage y'all to check it out. As I said at the beginning, if you like what I do here on this channel, this is probably going to be your cup of tea. Also, as I said at the beginning, if you're looking for autographed copies, I've got them at polymathpress.com. Otherwise, ebooks and paperbacks are available wherever you get your books, and I've put some of those purchase links for you right down there in the What's It. So I think that about wraps us up for today's video. I'll be back shortly to talk about even more spooky things in the horror genre, so make sure you subscribed and make sure you've rung my notifications bell so you don't miss out on that. As a matter of fact, as soon as I finish filming this video, I'm immediately filming the next one as well. I do tend to film a couple at a time, although they won't be posted on the same day. But anyway, with all of that aside, I am very excited about this book. I really do think you're going to like it, so be sure to check it out. Stay tuned for all those future videos, and until then, take care and stay scared.